Welcome back, gamers. This is PCC5. Thank you so much for starting September with a bang. RGS Ace, we see you. Hashtag my CEO in the chat, okay, with 102 gifted subscriptions. Thank you so much. We appreciate it from the very bottom of our hearts. If you haven't already, please, if you like what you see, give us a follow. Give us your subs. We have a YouTube, we have a Discord, and we're also on Zitter. We truly appreciate it. For those who are just tuning in, my name is Ardog with the Triple G, and I am your host for today's event. But now I've got, these handsome gentlemen to my left and to my left and to my right. I'll start with Mr. Meds, looking snazzy, Omeda moderator. How's it going?
It's going great. We had some banger games yesterday. We just came off some banger games, and now we're going to go into our grand finals, which I think if we're going to stay the trend, it's probably going to be a banger. So I'm really excited.
I'm so excited as well. And of course, we have Cynic, who is our Omeda QA tester, now has to deal with his junior, Joe yours truly. How's it going, Cynic?
It's going good. As Med said, the games were popping off yesterday. The games were crazy this afternoon, and I'm hoping that this Grand Finals doesn't disappoint.
Yep, let's get right into it because EWT, even worse timing, versus the professors. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Meds. What are we going to see for top picks and bans?
Well, so I think, looking at yesterday's picks and bans for, and yesterday's games, there was a lot of high priority for professors on that Richter. We saw Crazy Fool pop off on that Richter in that last game. We have seen Crazy Fool also pick up that Narbash. I think that was also banned against him in that last series. So I think there's going to be some high prio there. And then I think we're going to stay Stark Standard with that mid lane being that Gideon and Gadget. So, well, it should be really interesting to see, what these teams are looking to do. We have seen a lot of focus on that offline for professors. And then, hopefully we'll see some, jungle focus coming out of 6 for even worse timing.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what we'll see again. Is it going to be a phase ban? Is it going to be a Countess ban yet again from the professors? But all right, Cynic, take it away.
We see the Gideon even from West timing, which is we've seen it banned in the first series as well. I'm guessing they're trying to force the hand of professors and be like, do you want to take the gadget here, and kind of force them onto a lower priority pick. But I think that even West timing are just going to attack the mid lane and just kind of put Seismic in a winning position, because I feel like professors right now are kind of like trying to get their offlane and their jungler ahead, because yesterday we saw that those two players had a heavy impact on their game wins, and when they weren't ahead they did struggle. And obviously I feel like EWT have the skill matchup in the mid lane, and we did see that Finesse had a little bit of a struggle when he wasn't on the Gideon, so that's what I'm kind of thinking of. And as we see professors keeping up the trend of banning up the phase.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like anybody really wants that phase. We did see a high impact with that phase pick in our previous series. And I think you're completely right about this Gideon pick. I think Seismic really wants to be that one that is pushing up the lane. Maybe we'll see that Decker. He did pull out the gadget as well yesterday. So we'll see what's interesting here. With that pushing mid lane, we do see oftentimes Seismic getting out into his side lanes, getting into that jungle, setting up vision, and having that impact, which, kind of disrupts Professor's impact on this game and their focus.
Yeah, looking to attack the offlane. Obviously, the deck, as we said, it can be a flex pick. We did see Seismic take it in the mid lane, but I think it's kind of like dependent on the matchup. If he can get push, he can impact the side lanes, and obviously it's a very strong support. I want to see if professors kind of prioritize and try and give Violence the counter pick, because I feel like if they can allow Violence to get on the map and do what he did yesterday, I do feel like professors have a way into winning this game. But I don't think that if Violence is put behind and Felix is ahead or even, I'm not sure that professors can replicate what they did yesterday in the 2 games. So I'm kind of looking to see if they give him counter pick, or if they're just trying to take a strong pick early and kind of maybe try and take away some things from Shin, which we see the Bellica and the Richter, which is interesting because it leaves a Severog up that we saw Felix go absolutely crazy on last time. So Obviously, the Richter was, as you said before, with Crazy Fall doing God's work with it. Obviously, he did struggle in the one game, but the second game he did play it, he popped off, carried the game. And obviously, the Bellica is a flex pick, so both picks can be played in either role. But I'm gonna go with Richter being support again and the Bellica being mid.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I want to touch on this point. We did say that Sevarog is left open. Shin is a monster on that Sevarog. We do see it coming in. We do see the Fang Mao come in as well. Probably that Jungo offlane synergy there. But will we see the Grux? We did see Violence play Grux against the Sevarog as sort of that pseudo counter. Are we going to see it here? Could it be a ban in phase 2? I don't know. Well, it'll be interesting to see. But I do like. Oh, it seems like we actually have the Revenant coming in instead of the Fang Mao. So it looks like we're going to have that Decker Revenant for that dual lane, which I think is a pretty strong dual lane in that early phases of the game. And then obviously Revenant being that really strong late game carry as well.
Yeah, I think even with timing, I'm just looking at it thinking, okay, so Professor's like duo lane is not like the strongest, but they're not the flashiest. They're like a very safe pick that kind of like scale into the team fights and kind of do well in that aspect. So I think they're just looking at it thinking that's put them behind and make sure the impact is less impactful for the mid and the late game. And obviously the Feng Mao taken from Violence, we saw what he could do on it yesterday. This is where I assume it's going to go, but again, this is a three-way flex. This could, any of these characters could go either way, and we see the Feng picked for maybe the offlane, and then obviously Chimera follow-up ban. I think 6 is kind of like looking at the crunch here. Obviously they do have the Bellica and they do have the Richter, but I think the even worse timing will attack the carry pool here and ban the Drongo to allow and open up that crunch pick, which is what we saw them do yesterday.
Yeah, I think 6 just has a proficiency on that crunch pick. Oftentimes I would say that into a Bellica, into a Richter, what are you doing? You shouldn't be picking crunch. But I think 6 is just kind of on another level with that champion that I wouldn't be surprised if we do see him pick it up. It is a huge cupper pick for him. And we do see that Drongo is taken off. We have seen this in the past. Drongo has taken over games with that rad rounds, with that silence, with that boomerang. He can do a lot of work on it. So really good to pinch that pool.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Professor's take. Obviously, Twin Blast is still up, but I assume that Professor will run out his comp with probably Twin Blast and then hopefully something tanky. Yeah, like as we see the Greystone. I was kind of expecting the Steel, but Greystone has its own play style, and obviously it could be played in multiple roles. This is like a four-way flex. All of these characters can be played in multiple different roles, and we don't know where anything is going until we see them actually load into the game. But if I was a betting man, I would say Feng Mao off lane, Richter support, Bellica mid, and Greystone in the off lane. But then we see the Gadget, obviously, as we talked about before, a power pick, and then crunched around at the comp. I think even worse timing's draft is like they have like S-tier characters in all the roles. So I'm interested to see what Professor's round this composition out with. I'm assuming it's going to be the Twin Blast.
Yeah, I would assume it's a Twin Blast. It's just such a comfort pick for Survivor here. We've seen he does a lot of work. He's able to impact a lot of the map, and it provides a lot of utility for the team with the slows and that R delete button.
All right, well, let's look at this draft. Who are you favoring, Cynic?
Even worse timing. Even if you take the player names off and you ask me which draft, I would have said even worse timing's draft. Like Decker is strong, Sevrog is just an absolute monster. Revenant can be a monster. I think that's probably the only weak point of the draft is like the Twin Blast or the Revenant. I would take Twin Blast over Revenant all day, just from this current patch. But yeah, across the board, I think even worse timing's composition is stronger.
But I have to ask you, Mr. Meds, what works well for the Professor's draft?
I think what really works well is this Feng Mao. I think that there's going to be a big focus on that Feng Mao, especially if he can be able to get ahead of that Sevarog, if there's some focus on there, and then as well as that split push potential that goes into the late game. We have seen even worse timing be that objective focus team fight team. They have, but that kind of is not the style of Professors. We have seen that they have had some success in that split push game, so it could be that this Feng Mao runs over this game here.
All right, well, Doctor, we have to ask you which draft do you like?
I'm gonna say choo choo, Professor's hype train. Let's go.
Professor's hype train. Okay, so your draft alone, is that what you're saying, Mr. Meds?
I would say that, yes.
Okay, so series-wise, what is your prediction, Mr. Meds?
Yeah, Professor's hype train. Let's go.
Professors. Hashtag 55 scrims in 20 days. Okay.
55 scrims. Let's go.
Hashtag 55 scrims, baby. Cynic, who is your pick for this series? This is a best of 5 where we have 1,750 going to first place, and second place will take home $1,050.
I think this first game will kind of set the tempo because we haven't really seen EWT really challenged, in my opinion, whereas Professors have had the harder side of the bracket from my take. So I think this first game will kind of like set the tempo. Can Professors come out swinging and kind of show what they did in the game 3 yesterday? Or will EWT show what they've shown in the previous games, which is slow controlled game, explosiveness in like the mid game, and then end the game relatively cleanly?
All right.
So I will go EWT.
You're going to go EWT? And then this is where I have to split.
Hamster.
The hamster, or is it the professor who's doing what was it, Mr. Meds, that you were saying about
the professor's giving him the hat. You know, he put him in the labyrinth and had him chase the cheese, you know?
Yep, and was doing testing stuff on them and doing experiments with the hamster. But I have to lock him in. I have to give respect. You cannot underestimate the professors. So I am going to choose the professors. I am not cursed.
Hype train.
Hype train. Choo
Hype
choo.
train.
Drop the slots for the profs. I think we have yet to make something for the hamster, but game 1, let's go, baby. This is going to be a very hot game and hot, spicy game to watch, but our casters are looking very cold. Take it away, F6 and Lance.
Thank you very much, R-Dog. My name is Lance Cecil. I could not be more excited to be with you here today. I am joined, as always, by my main man, F6. How you doing today, F6?
I am doing well, Lance. I know they said it's going to be a hot game, but it's kind of getting cold in here because we're going to see a lot of spicy plays, but it's going to be getting chills down our back, and I'm here and ready for it, and I think we both are.
So we heard the desk. They sounded like they were on the side of Professors with 2 of them going that way. I know that you're probably not in that belief. I'm on the hype train as well. What's EWT going to do to win this series?
I mean, we've seen them do it time and time again. They just have this concrete play style. They know when objectives are coming up. They're there for it. They make these smart plays, and they tend not to make any mistakes. And when they do, they're very small. So just the gameplay coming out of even worse timing is they just got to have to play like they did in the beginning of the tournament from the group stages on the seeding rounds and yesterday. And what is going to come down to is actually Professors matching that energy and being able to just collide and just kind of beat them at their own game.
Yeah, and the storylines we have coming into this final series of the day are absolutely huge. We have even worse timing, looking to become our first 2-time champion as a team. We have Pablo over there as their ADC, looking to become our first 3-time winner. We have Professors who have climbed all of the way to this spot before, losing in 5 games during PCC3 to a team that Seismic and Six were both on when they were on Royalty. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, they didn't lose to that team. They lost to Immune, who ended up winning that event in 5 games. They are ready for some redemption. They have been so hungry to get back to the spot. They have earned it. They've gone through the gauntlet. They beat our number 2 seed. They beat our number 3 seed. They're looking to take down the number 1 seed as well, but they have an absolute Everest mountain to climb.
A huge mountain, Lance, huge mountain to climb. Like we talked about, the perfection that comes out of EWT every game that they play. And Professors, they have a very strong early game. You saw it in the game 3 yesterday. They came out with some trickery, some tomfoolery, and they were able to capitalize them and propulse them into the just advantage of that entire game and just held control. And if they're able to get that early game lead and just kind of hold it throughout the entire game and finish strong, I think they're going to give Even Worse Timing a run for their money and might even take it all.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I am actually, you know, as I said before, in the belief of that. And the first gank that we're going to get in this series is going to come out of Nitro. Seismic's going to be able to back up into safety, though. Not really able to take that leap forward, really get onto him. Would have been into the speed gate as well. Seismic is very disciplined, was holding that ability. Know that the Greystone only has one opportunity to get overneath it, able to get himself back to safety. Shin's going to get a little bit of an invade here, get some information down, gonna find Nitro over on his blue camp, actually, and it looks like Six is gonna move up as well. Nitro needs to be careful as he's gonna start to get sandwiched over here, but is on his own side of the map. Looks like Violence is gonna rotate over there as well, but Shin should be able to slither over the wall and just be safe getting out.
Yeah, not too much coming out from that possible gank. Nitro was aware of the situation. I mean, he should expect that Six is going to be there to kind of pressure out that blue side when you see Sevarog over there with Shin. But one thing I wanted to point out there, when that river buff was coming up on both sides, you saw the dual lane rotate to the left river, and you saw Six on Crunch going over to the right river buff, and they're kind of closing in. And if Belka was going to slip up there, that would have been very impactful in the fight. But we do see Six over here in this offlane putting pressure on the Feng Mao, but I don't think that is the character you want to put pressure on. The maneuverability and the escapability on him is there, but I think he's just trying to get pressure for this green buff to kind of propel him into a lead over Nitro.
Yeah, and we've seen this lane matchup several times throughout this weekend already, that Feng Bao has such an easy early game into the Sevarog. We talked about how he can utilize his passive, just trying to do what they can in order to, you know, keep Shin in this matchup, keep him from being slowed down. Also goes ahead and puts that Scion buff over onto the side of Six, which is always what you're looking for. You're trying to get that crunch to Six in as accelerated of a fashion as you can, because once he gets that ultimate unlocked, gets the crunch, the ability to empower his stuff, gets that knock up, the ability to push somebody with the forward crunch. There's just so much unlocked for Crunch once he finally gets that ultimate.
Not only that, but the healing that comes in with the ultimate on Crunch, with the recrunch, it's just so impactful in these fights. It kind of gives him a little bit more sustain, a little bit more oomph inside of those fights that he wants to take. And with the Fangtooth coming up for the first time here in 5 minutes, we're going to be looking towards Nitro on his red side buff if they can get a potential gank, because Six is on this river, Rev off in the mid of the map as well, but Belka notices it and is going to try and back out here. A lot of pressure being applied on Finesse too, but I don't think there's going to come up too much of it. They're going to be missing out on a lot of XP. Crazy Fool just kind of zoning, stopping at least the farm that Pablo and Vercon can get, even if it's just 1 or 2 minions, trying to propel Twin Blast Survivor up in the duo lane against these guys.
Yeah, and it was a great seismic assault coming out of Finesse 2 there. The forward crunch was just coming out from Six on the crunch there. Was probably going to get onto him, hit that stun onto him. May have been the first blood of the game, but the seismic assault is able to negate that.
Yeah, we see Survivor and Crazy Fool freezing this lane. Vector and Pablo do not like it, and they're kind of putting the pressure. Crazy Fool not hitting his hooks today. Hasn't been on point, but yeah, that might be some first game shenanigans, kind of warming up, but the further on this game goes, I'm expecting Crazy Fool to start zoning in on his targets and kind of getting them and putting them out of the position and getting that damage off with the TB behind him.
Yeah, we're just tuning the radio dial right now, adjust into whatever your ping is for the day, whatever they've decided to set them to. But we got a little bit of action coming out. Tesla Dome is going to come down. Nitro is fighting on top of this, but nowhere to run for Seismic, and that's going to be first blood in the grand finals, going over to Professors. Say it with me, Six. Put them on the board, baby. Let's go. That's the pacing that we're trying to get out of there. You also want to try to hold their mid laner down. Everybody on EWT can ball, everybody can play, and everybody can carry the team. However, Seismic is one of the most pivotal spots, especially when he's on a character like this Gadget. The amount of AoE he's going to be able to put down, the amount of zoning, the magical armor shred, just in general, everything that Gadget provides as a character. When piloted somebody like Seismic, you need to do what you can to shut it down early, and they're doing a great job of targeting that there. I do once again have to bring up the fact I think he has that laning advantage over Belica as well, especially in this early game as we try to go into it. Crazy Fool's gonna hit the hook. That's gonna be onto Pablo. A lot of damage coming through. Does still have the flash available if he needs to get away. Doesn't feel like he needs to use it right now. The bombs are raining down. Not using the flash is actually gonna cost him his life, and Six is here with the counter gank though. Crazy Fool is gonna blink away. Six is gonna fall, gonna get hooked up as well. The bomb is gonna go down on top of him. Six is also low. He's gotta run out of here. Survivor raining down bullets. Gonna pick him up as well, but Seismic has joined the fight. Laser's gonna come through as Seismic puts on a hat from Lids. Just a little bit of damage, not gonna be enough to take him down. And a decent counter gank from Seismic, but not enough to really capitalize. And that's 2 for 1 in favor of Professors.
That is a lot going on. I know Six was trying to come in there with the counter gank to help out his dual lane to change the tides of that fight, but he was unable to, and he falls as well. So it's giving 2 kills over towards Survivor, putting him that much ahead of the Revenant, Pablo, and that is not what you want for Even Worse Timing. We talked about it earlier. They're going to need to play better than Even Worse Timing and just apply the pressure they want to. He is in trouble. Crazy Fool does not have the Whiplash up, so not much going to come out of it. But they also put a lot of pressure on the T1 and mid there for Nitro and Finesse 2 with the gadget rotations, and Pablo is stuck in the mid having to cover, and this is what's going to get Survivor to get more farm, a little bit more increase of a lead on top of what he already has. And honestly, right now, Professors, you are doing what you need to do to get yourselves ahead of EWT and try and keep that lead and snowball yourselves into a victory on game 1.
Oh, they definitely are. And, you know, it is only game 1. We have potentially 5 coming up, but setting the pace and getting that early advantage matters so much. The mentality of getting ahead in this series, only needing to win 2, putting the pressure onto the enemy team is going to be so important here. But we're going to have another gank come out onto Seismic. The speed gate is going to be able to get him out. Seismic Assault is going to land, and Six is here with the counter gank. Pablo's going to roam in, as well as 3 members have joined from both teams. Shin with the flank, as well as Subjugate, maybe looking to land a couple of them, but they're not going to pull the trigger on it. Crazy Fool going to join the party as well. Yeah, Shin's just going to retreat. They noticed that everybody was roaming in from both teams. Don't want that 4v4 team fight only 9 minutes into the game, and everyone's going to take the smart play, get back to farming, get back to that guaranteed experience, gold, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of things people probably won't be noticing is Survivor's not rotating as much as Pablo, so he's there in his lane getting this free farm. And I think they're going to need to answer this. I think Pablo's going to have to stay in the lane a little bit longer, because right now he is not keeping up with Survivor, and he's going to need to be able to keep up, especially as a Revenant, which relies solely on just getting an early lead and just using that damage against the opponent. But if he's not able to do that like he is right now, I don't think it's going to work out in their favor, and it's going to take a long time for Pablo to really get back into the groove of things.
Ooh, Six is sitting here stalking, trying to see if some sort of fight is going to happen. Crazy Fool did miss the hook, so maybe not a lot of aggression going to be coming out of the Professors here. Yeah, Six is just going to hit the back with that Crazy Fool hook missing here. So good on him to accidentally miss that. Doesn't know that it saved him. The ball's going to land on the Survivor, though, but really far away. Pablo's not going to be able to provide any damage onto it. They're actually going to get a good poke on to Vecron here as Nitro is entering the river. Probably still nothing going on here, though, as both junglers are really trying to make their presence shown over here on this side of the map. Nitro is actually going to jump down, but there's no follow-up CC, no follow-up damage, and it's just a little bit of time wasted for Nitro over here.
I don't think it's too much of a time. I think he was just trying to get a little bit of pressure to try and go towards his Fang Tooth, right? As we're seeing just now, they were able to get a little bit of a lead to get a better positioning on this. We see Violence rotating, out-rotating Shin. Shin's going to have to go through the mid lane. Belica keeping the pressure up in mid as well for the Fang Tooth, and the first one goes to Professors with just a little bit of pressure that they applied through that duo lane.
And here's the gank on to Seismic one more time. And he's going to have to blink away really, really quick. That's very smart for Seismic, but that does make him vulnerable 5 minutes from now. So you'll see him being ganked until the 16-20 mark. And that's not what you want if you're a gadget. Yeah, you've got the Tesla or the speed gate to keep yourself safe. You can drop a Tesla dome on top of it if you want to try to run away and not let them pursue you as well. But very, very vulnerable. We see Nitro starting to take the hands of the robot as well. Still has the ult, so probably would have been pretty safe there. The blink available to him as well, but you don't want to blow that unnecessarily. You want that available to you in team fights, and that should be Six bullying him out of this side of the jungle, gonna be able to secure the mini prime for himself. Actually, no, Nitro's not done fighting. they're going to come find him over here with Shin, and they're trying to take this blue buff away from him. Shin doing a good job of making sure there's just nobody that can contest this mini prime buff, and that's going to go over to the side of even worse timing.
It does go for even worse timing, but I mean, once again, I'm going to keep saying it. Survivor's just over here free farming, not a lot of pressure put onto him pretty much the entire game, except for that one gank coming in from 6 earlier inside the game. But right now, this is not what you do not want on Survivor, right? You don't want him to get big. You don't want to give him the ability just to free farm in a lane by himself, because what that's going to do is going to skyrocket him into this mid game, and he's going to be a menace, and he's going to be a problem. And I'm going to tell you right now, Lance, be on the lookout for Survivor to be doing some work here when it comes to these bigger team fights in the mid game.
Yeah, and they've been targeting Seismic in the mid lane. That's where Nitro has been ganking. And Seismic said on Mugi's interview that he did with him 2 days ago that he's okay with taking that pressure away and getting all of the focus, because he knows his duo lane is going to win and he knows his offlaner is going to win. But in this game, that strategy is not working for him because his duo lane is starting to fall behind. And there's not much they're going to do. And another bit of attention put down onto Seismic here, as he's going to have to get into full retreat mode. Vecron's pretty low as well, still has the double jump in order to get himself out. Very hard to run in to Gadget and Decker as a team, so they are going to be able to get to the safety. And a little bit of a dive coming in here onto Violence. We saw him survive a couple of tower dives expertly yesterday, going for another one himself. Gonna ult a little prematurely there, hoping that the tower was gonna help get Shin into execute range, but Shin and Six will be able to pick that up. Nitro's gonna try to save this tier 1 tower, but those empowered minions should be able to knock it out, and that's gonna be first tower of the game for Even Worse Timing, who has all of a sudden evened this kill score up too.
But Twin Blast is on the rotation here, on the hunt, looking for a possible pickup. Six's blink is not up, so he's gonna have to be careful. And if Survivor's gonna be able to pick up this kill, which it looks like he is, and he picks it up, another kill into the pocket of Survivor TV. This is not looking good for Even Worse Timing. They did get the pressure on the off lane, but look like this. Survivor and Nitro are putting that pressure back on. Shin had to back, and the ADC over in this lane is gonna break that down, especially with a Twin Blast and his passive, just to clear the lanes and put the pressure on there.
Backing out because Seismic's going to apply a little bit of pressure, but they still should be able to get this next wave in. Shin has showed up, so maybe going to be able to clear that out. Still about 30% of the tower's health is left. But once again, we have Survivor over in an isolated area, getting solo XP, getting solo farm, gonna retreat, get a good buy out there for himself, as Finesse 2 has roamed over, joined up with Crazy Fool in this duo lane. He should be making his move back to mid lane now as well, unless actually it looks like they might throw Survivor down into the mid lane too, just doing whatever they can to get this guy XP. They're funneling the Twin Blast, and I believe that strategy is something we've seen work throughout the course of this weekend, and you cannot fault them for using these strategies.
Because that Twin Blast just gives you all the damage you need, especially when you're building on hit against this tanky Sevarog, and you Crunch in itself just taking away his health. And you're going to see whenever Survivor is up and he's still alive in these team fights, you're going to see Professors come out on top at the end. But if they can find and pick out Survivor and get him off, get Twin Blast out of that fight, they should be able to turn on Even Worse Timing's favor. But they're going to need to start applying a little bit more pressure on top of him, as you can see Crunch doing over here in the dual lane.
Yeah, and Six is making some pressure. Gonna get the uppercut onto Crazy, who doesn't really have anywhere to go. Gonna skewer in kind of a panic mode. Wasn't really able to turn any of that around, and now Survivor is gonna have to backpedal. He's into the Nether Realm with Pablo, but he's got a pretty big advantage over him. I don't think that's who Pablo is trying to catch with that. Gonna use the Twin Blast ult to get himself out back into his tier 1 tower. So a little bit of an advantage going the way of Even Worse Timing here. Gonna be able to channel that into getting this second Fangtooth of the game, evening that up at 1 apiece. Extensions to river buffs for both teams at this point.
Nice trade going over for Even Worse Timing there. That pressure that needed to be applied.
Oh, no.
He definitely, I think he just got it over there, Lance. That was an easy pickup for him. They were on Fangtooth. They weren't going to contest him. But that pressure that Sixes was applied on that dual lane to get that kill on Crazy Fool was great. As we see him over here one more time, looking over on that red side jungle, trying to let Survivor know that he's always going to be around, get him in there. But Violence on the opposite side of the map, pushing that pressure back onto Shin, getting a T1 down, trading that, and then going into that gate.
Yeah, and that's something we saw multiple times out of Professors yesterday. The second there's a big movement to the opposite side of the map, Violence commits to not being in the first or second team fight of the game, the first or second grouping of the game. He goes, he takes and claims that tier 1 tower, opens that map up for himself to be able to join the rest of the professors in the teachers conference and gathering that knowledge, then taking it numbers advantages into these later team fights, now that he doesn't necessarily have to worry about sitting in his lane anymore.
Yeah, we just got to look at the tab screen. We saw that Survivor's up in 20, 25 CS. Obviously, we have 6 over here in the duo lane. They're applying pressure, trying to get this T1 down to even this lane out. Not any friendly forces by for Survivor, so he's just going to have to take the L on that tower. But it's okay. There's a lot of resources they put to get that T1, and looking for a mini prime coming up pretty soon. I think they might be able to get that with how much they have now the ability to have Twin Blast rotate.
And you can see we have hit the point in the game where Violence needs to be careful of Shin. He is very hard to take down at this spot. Got the second upgrade to the shoulder pads already. Not necessarily going to be able to take that 1v1 if they are both at 100% health if you are the Feng Mao now. So now it's a battle of getting in and out of the lane, weaving your time in and out of there, pushing the wave when everybody else is away, trying to out-rotate Shin. But Shin is an absolute master of this game. He understands the complexities of the map movement. He's done so much to show us and teach people who have watched him how to necessarily navigate this lane, and it's going to be hard for Violence to be able to keep up with the movements that Shin provides. We got a big team fight going out here, though, as the Greystone ult is going to pop out, going to get some blinks away from even worse timing, as it looks like Professors is on the advance here. Crazy Fool gonna catch a ball to the face, not able to pursue. Health bars are going low as well. Shin's starting to take a little bit of a chunk, and so is Pablo. Gonna retreat behind his Gadget and his Decker here, who are just gonna throw a little bit of poke out. Violence has found himself into the backline, but the subjugate into the Colossal Blow is gonna land, and not even a Reaping Dash is gonna keep him safe from the damage of that tier 2 tower. But Survivor's gonna sneak up, get himself solo local gold while that entire fight is going on. So they're gonna pick up a trade. They're going to get Pablo for Violence, but it really goes in the favor of Professors here, who are going to claim the tier 1 and mid during that whole fiasco going on.
What a ult coming out of a Shin, putting the Feng Mao Violence on the wrong side of the T2 that you wanted to be. And they were trying to get this mini orb prime, but I don't think they're going to be able to, because they were able to get the back off on even worse timing. They're going to apply this pressure, and I don't think Professors are going to be able to contest, and they're just going to have to give this one up to 6.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. It works this way because Pablo died first in that, right? So Violence still isn't up in order to be able to join this. Pablo died a little bit earlier than he did in the beginning portions of that fight, so his death timer is a little bit lower. Gets to that earlier. The health bar is still a little bit low on Professors from that fight. They see even worse timing, cramming themselves into that Orb Prime pit. Know they need to get their escapes and get out of there as fast as they can, because that was going to be a losing follow-up fight for them. Great game sense by them to know that they need to sack that.
And I mean, this game is even right now, Lance. I honestly don't know if they can play any better other than playing perfect, but all the T1s down on this map on both sides. Objectives are pretty even except for the mini or prime. But to be honest with you, this game can go any way or which other they want to. And I think right now for the Professors, the strong suit is Survivor. Get him in, be the front line there. Richter with the Crazy Fool is gonna have to hit his Riplashes a little bit more often to really get an impact on these fights. But also Pablo is gonna need to get back into this game, get a little bit more farm just to contest, because right now Survivor is just doing a little bit more damage than he can and turning these fights in a little squishy way.
Yeah, I would like to talk about that a little bit more, F6. This is the first time we've ever seen EWT really frazzled. They took a tiny bit of a disadvantage early in seeding round against Rogue, but they rebounded from that pretty quick. This is the first time that just really none of their plans have been working out for them. As you see Pablo taking some swords from Nitro, he's going to fall down here. There's really nothing that can happen, so we can focus onto this. What is EWT going to do? This is the first time their game plan has ever really been disrupted.
Yeah, and that's why they're called the professors, right? They're here to teach even worse timing what they know, and that, hey, you guys might be perfect against these other teams, but so were we. And we did pick up a second Fang Tooth for their favor. Seismic's able to push out this tier 2 in mid, though, with the buff of Mini Prime. But at the same time, the second Fang Tooth, that's a permanent buff. This Mini Prime's going to wear off, and I think they're going to be able to apply this pressure back as we see professors rotating to this fight over by the blue side, and there's a lot of people out of position. They might be thinking they have the advantage versus violence, but they're pushing themselves deeper into their own jungle. Richter with the big hook, and the skewer coming out. Gadget falls behind into the gray screen. She goes, and that is the pressure and the rotation that we saw. They got a little bit too greedy there for even worse timing, and that was the worst time for them to be that pushed up, Lance.
Yeah, I don't think that one is in Seismic's notebook. I know he's been doing a lot of prep and getting ready for this, but I don't know if he was ready to be playing. I think this is the worst game I've ever seen Seismic play on screen. I think he's got to be like maybe 1-3, 1-4 at this point. And we talk about like even worse timing being thrown off of their typical game plan and not necessarily being used to playing from behind like this. It's starting to show, you know, they're rotating into spots where they're not normally having to counter rotate. They're going to spots where they're not the ones aggressing, and maybe that lack of experience in this is going to start to show.
I mean, yeah, that's 100% correct, Lance. What we talked about, just bringing it all the way back to the beginning of the analyst side of it. We needed professors to play a better game and play even worse timings game better than they are, and that's what they're doing, and that's what we're seeing right now. And Richter coming in with that Whiplash, big skewer, taking out that one of their main damage dealers out of that fight, that big AoE that we know Gadget is really good for, stopping those engages and those counter engages, right? So, and once that's gone, there's really not much that even worse timing can really answer to. And honestly, Survivor TV as well, just blowing up whoever is in front of them, whoever gets CC'd, is just so impactful in these fights right now. As they look for the big or prime, they're going to be a little bit late on even worse timing here, rotating to this fight, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop it. Or are they really going to go in here with the big boy Shin?
Look how far away Seismic is from this fight. He's going to be able to join as this is popping off, but it's a slight numbers advantage right away. They did a good job of just pulling professors off of the Orb Prime, which should have been the primary objective there as they were in a numbers disadvantage. But just like that, they're actually going to be able to turn this around. They're going to catch the Belica out with it, but the great counter engage is just going to come and blow Seismic up. The Greystone ult is going to start to go as well as Violence is going to have to retreat as the health bars are low, but this is a numbers advantage for professors here. Decker is gonna jump in. The Colossal Blow is gonna knock two of them back. Shin's still very healthy, but they should be able to, oh my gosh, Vecron with almost the escape, but Survivor is relentless in the pursuit. Shin the only one up right now. The health bars are a little bit low coming from professors, but with that many people around, they should feel very safe, and that is a 1-for-4 trade in advantage to professors.
I know a lot of people are not going to see this, but that blink ult coming in from Crazy Fool, recognizing that finesse too on the Belica, was out of position there, doing as much as he can to keep the pressure off of Belica, even though she still went down, but that was enough to get the kill on the Gadget and the Crunch, turn that fight. Survivor was able to put as much free damage into Pablo, and honestly, that was just a great team fight coming out of professors with that strength of Survivor in the backline and Crazy Fool experience and shot calling.
Yeah, and Crazy Fool recognizes that that is only Shin. The professors know that they can stay on that and rip it. Gonna be able to pick up the first Orb Prime of our grand finals today. Put themselves in a great spot, up 4 kills already on it as well. An extra Fangtooth to their advantage as well. And this is exactly where you want to be if you are paying tuition and seeing the professors for who they truly are. Look at this, the grind set, but let's talk about the assist. That's your favorite stat ever, F6. 12 to 15, so that is still relatively even. Only a 3 assist difference, 4 kills total, but the items. Look how far ahead the item spots are for Survivor. He's got 2 items finished, already has the Omnivamp piece as well, as it looks like he went a little out of order and stopped at a tier 2 there. Only 2 items finished for Pablo. He is working his way towards that Impeter pretty soon, and the damage from a Revenant is inevitable. It is big play Penta Pablo that we are talking about here, and if they give him enough time to scale into this late game, he's gonna do enough damage, and he's gonna play the team fights well enough that he may be able to pull EWT back into this.
I mean, we just saw a typical build. He went into the Bloodletter just to give him a little bit more sustain in lane there. Went into the Demolisher, the Sky Splitter to go after specifically Shin on that Sephiroth, because that's going to be the main person, as you can see throughout these fights, that's going in face checking, because nobody else could really go in there and take as much damage. So Survivor going into that Shred build is what's really giving them the advantage in this team fight. That's what I'm talking about. You do not want to give them that lead. As we see now, they have a standard 1-3-1, but they're trying to push him out. But Nitro's over on the dual side, just throwing these minions. There's nobody really to contest them, and I think that's going to be at least one hitter down while they're chasing after in the back line right now. Shin is trying to push in, but Violence goes in. Big hook coming in from the Richter. Skewer misses. Not a lot. The Tesla Dome comes out on top, and then down goes Pablo already in the back line, but Crazy Fool is with the trade. Shin is in a bad position. Violence is on the hunt. Nitro is chasing down Seismic. Seismic, I don't think there's anywhere you can go, and no, there isn't. They pick up the RGS Ace on game one, applying pressure already with one inhib down. They're rushing through mid lane here, Lance, and I think they're gonna be able to finish it out here today on game one.
Yeah, only 10 seconds left before anybody's going to respond, and it's going to be Vecron. That's going to be game one for Professors. A shock to a lot of people out there, not to Lance himself, who is the biggest Professors believer on the planet, especially right in this exact moment. Even worse, timing loses their first game in PCC history, 1-0 Professors.
Lance, I told you they just had to beat them at their own game, and game one is what we saw coming out of Professors saying, EWT, we've been practicing. Hashtag 55 scrims is here today, and game two is coming up next.
And we got to talk about that Survivor scoreline, 6-0-5. I've never seen Pablo get gapped. Never. I've never noticed that. Holy shit, it just happened.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a huge gap, but in this competitive level, this competitive scene, and where everybody's just so close, even that small little waiver of a gap is going to just seem so huge, especially in these team fights once everybody's there together. But I mean, there's only 3 other people that can really tell us about this game.
Yeah, and let's throw it back to them. Take it away, our dog.
What a banger to set the tone for this best of 5. EWT definitely getting challenged. You know, they've been sweeping in this whole tournament, but Professors having a better time and even worse timing with the worst time. Nitro putting on that gas. Crazy Fool is crazy. Survivoring. Finessing. Violence choosing himself. Give the points to the people. Cynic, please break down what we just saw.
I mean, it kind of all started from Survivor getting like leads just from being in the lane. Like there was a lot of rotations that EWT were trying to do to try and catch people out and try and help Seismic, because as you saw, he was struggling, and obviously they wanted to try and break him out and just allow him just to roam around. But the rotations weren't giving anything. It was just Survivor. Oh, I'll take this wooden wave. Oh, I'll take this tower. Thank you very much. Oh, I'll go here. Take this tower too. It was just give all the resources to Survivor. He wasn't doing anything flashy. He was just playing the lane, rotating, getting gold, and then took that gold into team fights. And then, Nitro was just all over the place, impacting. He got the mid lane ahead, put Seismic behind. Seismic had a really bad game this game. Hopefully he can fix it for next one. But it was just a lot of misplays that weren't really paying off for EWT that Professors took over.
All right, Mr. Meds, what did you think about game number 1?
You know, all I really have to say is choo. Come on, let's get on the hype train. Choo. I think it's very important to mention that Professors broke EWT out of their playstyle. We haven't really seen a lot of teams be able to do that. You know, we've kind of seen them be able to control the game, you know, have those pushing waves, get into objectives, control those objectives, kind of snowball that lead, and then kind of have that explosive end game that, you know, Cynic was talking about before. But the fact that Survivor and Violence and Nitro were focusing on those outer lanes and the ability to push down those tier 1, tier 2 towers kind of broke it out, especially with the focus, like we were talking about, on that mid lane. So it was a very, very great start for Professors here, and we'll see if they can take that momentum from this first game into that second game.
Well, going into game number 2, Cynic, what does EWT need to do in order to secure this next game?
I mean, one thing I look at is like their team fight was rather scrappy. Like Shin was like massive, absorbing a lot of it. But the problem was there was like you saw like multiple team fights where Shin was just alive and everyone else was dead because they weren't playing around him. Either he was going too deep or the team wasn't really following him. And I feel like if they can just clean up the team fighting and play around Shin and just allow him to create the space that he was doing in previous games that we've seen, I feel like that game was still winnable. I feel like as for the early game, I feel like they just need to use the skill that they have and win the lanes. Like I feel like the duo lane was won purely just because of mistakes of rotation. I don't think it was a skill diff. I feel like give Pablo something he can dominate the lane with and just target that lane with 6 and just snowball that lane and let the other 2 lanes kind of play themselves.
Seismic, I hope you have your notebook out. Cynic has just told you what the strategy is to win game number 2. But Mr. Meds, anything else you'd like to add about game number 2? What do they need to do to secure game number 2? And what does the Professors need to do in order to secure game number 2?
Well, I guess to answer that question, I will answer with my own questions. Are we going to see a Richter ban? Are we going to see, that TB ban? We've seen these picks be super impactful for Professors. And I think if we can see them maybe change up their picks and bans a little bit, maybe prioritizing that Richter in that first stage instead of that Gideon ban, maybe we'll see some sort of mix up and maybe have those priorities in those lanes.
So you're saying, Mr. Meds, like more of target bans towards the heroes that the Professors excel in. Is that correct?
It could be.
All right. Well, don't go anywhere, guys. Game number 2. Keep your eyes glued on the screen. Just stay put, because we're just going to have a short little break.